So yeah, I watched the long-awaited movie Marty Supreme today, and I was sad at first because it released around a month late in India. But it's alright because the year 2026 is going to be great after this movie. And you can imagine how much I liked this movie as per my previous line. So yeah, let's start. The video is in two parts. First part is normal review type shit, and then we will go into deep analysis. And as you know, the movie revolves around the character Marty Mauser, named as Marty Reisman, who is a great American table tennis player. Some of you might thought when I say in-depth analysis as the movie is around table tennis and it's not that deep to be very honest. This is what the director of movie John Safdie also thought. Marty is incredibly hardened by the ridicule that he has to endure every day, by the fact that this thing that he was put on earth to be greatest is a laughing stock to most of people. No one takes it seriously and it's a joke, a cosmic joke, and he was played with being the best at something that means nothing to many people.
But the truth is, I'm really in pursuit of greatness.
So, just to tell you, the movie is much more than normal sports, drama, and winning. Movie is incredibly great, and if you want to check out pure art in terms of acting, Timothy, the Lisan Al Gaib, the cinematography done by Darius Kunji, who was a part of legendary movie and my personal favorite Seven, and many more like Panic Room, Eddington, Mickey 17, Midnight in Paris, and The City of Lost Children. And if you want to watch a movie that feels like cinema, then just go for it. Now, enough of this normal discussion. Let's do into one thing you can't avoid in 2026? That is the aura, the charm, the light of Timothy Chalamet. Marty Supreme came as small indie movie from A24 and it placed him on the level of greats in skill and craft of acting. This year he will return as the Lisan Al Gaib and that Dune 3 will put him on the level that he can get big budget standalone movies. To understand this, I need to tell you about John Safdie, how he will play with you in the movie. Like the evolution of American dream, the evolution of pride, the evolution of individualism, and how you can understand a people through the individual, not through the mass. So while John uses the character of Marty to showcase what extreme individualism looks like, he then uses all the other elements of films like set design, the sound design, and the music to show us how the environment play a role in making someone this way. So after the World War ended, the American economy, the architecture, and the society start changing suddenly, focusing more on opportunities for all kind of people and making way to grow for everyone. So, with the defeat of Germany, Jewish Americans felt a renewed sense of opportunity and this reinvigoration of their culture, history, and heritage. And Marty, being a young New York American man and a son of Jewish immigrant, made him the product of both of these surges in the pride and belief. This is why the film, as Josh Sapp describes, is titled Marty Supreme. Someone pointed me out that the music and sound score seems from 80s America, but the movie is set in 50s. It's because the Marty is itself saying his future self, and I don't know how much this info is true, but if this is true, then it's a great way of storytelling even from the sound score. Because its themes of individualism is timeless and the American dream still exists. And there is a line that Josh used to describe the atmosphere of the film is, I wanted the film to feel like you are seeing picture of your parents before you were born. And as audience sitting in the dark room, we can sense that Josh achieved this. So as were we talking about sound design, I noticed something that resonates from John Safdie directing. As previously in Good Times and Uncut Gem, he fills his films with as much as stylish music, sound and dialogue as he can, and this is called maximalist approach that can look and feel very vivid and bold to many people. The sound design was crafted to fill the scene with background voices and the hustle and chaos of 1950s New York. The team even went as far as attaching mic to individual extras in the crowd of the spectators for the background voices and conversation to be as vivid and present as possible. The anxiety inducing chaos of the film sets the perfect stage to show us how Marty is inevitable victim of his own pride, and such a level of ambition comes at a cost. Co-writer Ronald Bronstein breaks down what this cost look like and feels like to Marty. All the humiliation that are attendant to a pursuit that fuse with your identity, all the sacrifice that you have to make, all the sort of self-optimizing and selfish decision making, the way it holds you in the place and turns you into a nomad because you can't commit to a job and you can't commit to a family because you have the idea for your future self. Again, in classic Safi fashion, we have massively flawed character create problem after problem for himself out of deep feeling of insecurity, impulse and desperation for something greater. And while these traits contain the fire that fuels his excellence as player, they lead to these crippling decisions that only isolate him further and further from his family, friend and community. This reality also highlights the falsehood of the American dream in 1950s. These are flawed character, we all know. No one likes a self-obtained person, but as far I can go to say and be in within my moral limits, people don't like losers. People don't want to talk to losers, and if you are a people pleaser, then you are a loser. Personally, I don't think this is a bad trait as many people were criticizing that. If you have a goal for yourself, leave everyone to achieve that. Cause people are temporary, but your image in your eyes will be permanent. The best sport movies are able to craft narratives that audience easily rally behind. These films work because they offer a simple, physicalized version of ambition. You either win or you lose. You move forward or you don't. On the surface, Marty Supreme looks ready to play that same game. It presents itself as a sport biopic. It centers competition. Despite all the twists and turns, it's ultimately building towards a championship game. It even chooses a sport that feels unconventional enough to spark curiosity. Table tennis might sound minor on paper, but one thing I appreciate is how the film treats it with absolute seriousness. The rallies are short like battles, and matches feels fast, physical and punishing as we delve deeper into Marty's obsession. The high-stake games feel even more weighty. Don't mind, but I try to draw some similarities between Rocky movie and the Marty Supreme. Not just these are sport movie, but they are set around the same period of time and have somewhat similar story structure, like the idea that dedication and hard work and effort can change any person's life. Marty works at his uncle's shoe store. Rocky collects debt for Tony Gatso. Both of them wanted something big from their life and also wanted to be the best in their own sport. Rocky wants to defeat Apollo to prove his worth in boxing world, while Marty wants to defeat Endo to become a world champion. Beating them means recognition, and it means crossing from obscurity into visibility. There's a film that Marty Supreme shares a direct lineage with. It might be Rocky, not just because they are both sport films, but because they both utilize the underdog narrative to reflect the society in which they are made. But they are not entirely same. Marty's story isn't stylized as one of training or hard work like Rocky's. His motor is fueled by confidence, anxiety and appetite. I have one more relation from Whiplash to Marty Supreme. As you will remember, in Whiplash when Andrew's car crashed, he still stood up and ran towards his performance on the stage. What I felt in that scene, I had same feeling in the entire Marty Supreme. Just a feeling you can understand, but you can't put them into words. This film is an antidote to that, and to continue to believe in yourself, to continue to dream big, and to follow your dreams and not take no for answer. If Rocky arrived at the moment that needed reassurance, Marty comes from a culture that doesn't really believe in reassurance anymore. The promise that hard work alone will sort everything out feels thin nowadays. Marty carries that realism in his bones. He isn't waiting for his hard work or natural talent to reward him. He assumes it won't, so he finds another way to get what he desires. He pushes himself into the rooms where he doesn't quite belong and act like he's already earned the space. There's something incredibly familiar about that reflex because it's how a lot of people learn to survive right now. It does increasingly feel like we have to constantly sell ourselves and hustle to fill a gap where stability used to live. I don't want to promote gambling or anything like that, but if one thing I can tell you right now from this video, just try to gamble on yourself. Marty gambled on himself. In doing so, Marty Supreme feels honest about what it's like to be in your 20s. Not in the emotional way, but as recognition of the world we live in. Marty learns quickly that talents only matter once someone with resource decide it does. His life become organized around money, around the people who control it, and around the small humiliation required to stay in their orbit. When he kneels before Rockwell and begs for an opportunity he once dismissed, the movement lands with a mix of embarrassment and clarity. Progress in Marty's world comes through submission as much as it does from skill. Marty exists in a moment where you can lose a job, retain yourself, apply everywhere and still stall out. Despite this film taking place in 1950s, it recognized the modern reality of the world, where hard work isn't the only thing that matters. The kind of hustling that Marty embodies feels more resonant to a generation that knows they have to build a unique path to the top. Marty Supreme, Chalamet delivers a performance so extraordinary and lived in that he cements himself as this generation's Brando. The confidence, the cockiness, egoism, arrogance, and supreme self-belief are all played with such nuance and understanding that one can't help but root for someone who consistently make the ballsiest and riskiest move on the table at all times. Chalamet Supreme perfectly embodies and understands his character, becoming a likable narcissist with a nasty streak of tunnel vision. Dismissing Marty as simply unlikable is both incorrect and reductive. It ignores a fundamental truth about countless cinematic protagonists. A character doesn't have to be likable, to which is a trait that Marty cannot be denied. The cinematography capture ping pong in a way that make every shot and every rally more exciting than the last. Chalamet further showcases his dedication, hard work, and pursuit of greatness in the craft by performing all his own stunt, refusing stunt doubles, and playing ping pong in every scene depicted on screen. Marty Supreme is a movie for a dreamer, the unrealistically and self-confident individual. Marty Supreme is for everyone who is willing to sacrifice the lifetime of the mundane for fleeting but everlasting moment of glory. So before going back to watch Marty Supreme again, let's talk about ending when Marty returns from Japan after his win from Endo. Most of you guys are wrong about Marty Supreme ending. It's human first and great second. What I mean by that all movie long Marty performs greatness, talking like a legend, playing like a killer, living like the rules don't apply to him. But that performance sits on top of very ordinary, very fragile emotions. He wants to be the face of the sport, to be remembered, to escape the smallness of his life. Yet he's also a young guy from a poor background who's terrified of being nobody. People who are obsessed with purpose often insist they don't need anything else. But your reading nails the contradiction. Even the most driven people secretly wants the right to slow down, to be held, to have a family that doesn't grade them on greatness. The baby as permission to slow down. In the hospital, the baby doesn't erase his flaws or magically fix his life. It interprets the grind. For the first time, there is a person in front of him who doesn't care about his titles, exhibitions, or the Endo rivalry. Someone he can love without hustling or selling himself. A 23-year-old who has been sprinting for weeks, burning every bridge to prove he is special, would almost naturally break down. That it's okay to stop and just be there. The tears are that release, the realization that he's allowed to be a father, not just product of his own ambition. I don't think so I have ever seen a movie sold this well.
I think one of the best marketing jobs of any film I've ever seen. You've done a fantastic job with this movie.
Man, I appreciate it, Jimmy. And honestly, that's the spirit of Marty Supreme, Christmas Day, Marty Supreme, Dream Big, Marty Supreme, Christmas Day.
Yeah.
Timothy Chalamet and A24 basically turned Marty Supreme from small ping pong indie film into a full-on cultural movement. And I just need to talk about how they pulled that off. At its core, it's a pretty simple movie to market. An obsessive table tennis player chasing greatness based on real-life champ and hustler Marty Reisman. But instead of usual poster and trailers, they built an entire identity around it. Dreaming big, being delusional in the best way, trying to be one of the greats. That's already lines up perfectly with Timothy's own story and persona. So marketing never felt forced. The real turning point was the Marty Supreme jacket. That one piece of merch became the face of whole campaign. Timmy wears it, then suddenly you get Frank Ocean, Justin and Hailey Bieber, Kid Cudi, Tom Brady and bunch of cultural heavyweights rocking the same jacket. And now it doesn't feel like movie promo anymore. It feels like a streetwear drop. Fans literally camped outside pop-ups to drop $250 on a jacket for a film that wasn't even out yet. That's insane. You weren't just buying a windbreaker, you were buying into the dream big and be little energy the film is selling. Then there's a normal Zoom interview. That's anything but normal. Timothy show up with a buzz cut and yellow tank, pitching these unhinged ideas. The genius is that it's shot like a boring internal meeting, but the performance is dialed to 11. And they didn't stop there. The blimp over LA, the spear turned into giant ping pong ball, random sighting of jacket, even a table tennis event in New York hosted with brands like Airbnb. Every stunt felt like something a fan would post, even if they weren't paid to. That's the key. It's never looked like please buy tickets. It's looked like Timothy and his world just having fun and letting you in on the joke. What makes this unbeatable is how much it leans on Timmy as brand. His old Lil Timmy Tim rap era, his love for hip hop, getting knighted by Lil B, Tyler the Creator, all of that history makes the whole campaign feel like an extension of who he already is. And the wild part is, you can't really copy this. You can copy the blimp, the merch, the fake zoom, but without a star whose personality is the campaign, it's just going to feel try hard. To me, Marty Supremes proves that the best movie marketing doesn't look like marketing at all. It's look like a world you want to be part in, and in this case, that world just happened to smell like sweat, plastic ping pong ball, and delusional ambition. Before ending, I just wanna say,
Schwap!